Let's have a look at a sample of applications on the web. Now we'll start with those that use Web 2.0. Now Web 2.0 was a revision to the HTTP that enabled the more collaborative work that is now fairly familiar with the internet. It was associated with information sharing and interoperability, user-centered design, and related things. Now, it gives the users free choice to interact or collaborate with each other. Now, these are things like Google Hangouts and Docs. I guess you could say that Facebook, Twitter and things like that are also artifacts of Web 2.0. It's given rise to the what somebody called the user-supplied content of websites. Is not the website, the product provides the means with which people can collaborate, but people bring their own information rather than the vendor giving the information. So this is a fairly new phenomena. That, as I say, was enabled by Web 2.0. Now, when Tim Berners-Lee was asked to describe this, he dismissed it as mere jargon because, so far as he was concerned, this was what the internet was supposed to be all along, and the fact that it wasn't was a deficiency, not a it was a deficiency. Is not that Web 2.0 gave something that wasn't there before. The most familiar web systems are the electronic commerce systems. Now these could be business to business, or they could be business to consumer, government to consumer, government to business. This is where you have a supplier and a customer of some form or other, and they're fairly ubiquitous. There's a lot of different examples of them, and we know that so many organizations are tending to shift their entire business model to an internet-based e-commerce model. And this includes a lot of governments around the world, simply because the delivery mechanism is much cheaper than establishing central offices and having everybody come in. Another variety of product that's available across the web is software as a service. This is where, instead of shipping you the software and having you install it on your own computer, the software can reside in a central place, and you can use that software in some sort of, say, a subscription. This has a lot of advantages for quite a number of people. As a consumer, it means I don't have to maintain the software. It doesn't have to sit on my machine. I might have a front end to it, but maintaining and keeping the software up to date is the responsibility of the supplier, not me. There are some examples of that. We have Basecamp, we have Huddle, I think Salesforce is another one, and there is a bookkeeping package now available called Xero. Personally, I'm using Adobe Creative Cloud, so there's software as a service available from Adobe, and there's more and more arising all the time. Another major outgrowth of the internet has been the much talked about Internet of Things. Now this is, we've got so many billion things around the world that are possibly connected or connectable to the internet. Think in terms of meters, so power meters, water meters, the intersection control devices, all the control systems on railways, all this kind of thing that potentially could be connected to the internet as a means of linking them to some sort of a central site. Now, this can lead to some fairly interesting complications in terms of a control system, because now we have a fairly large control system with the potential to have a huge number of endpoint devices on them, connected to them through the internet, with all its communication peculiarities, I guess you'd call it. But the fairly exciting thing to people in this area is the possibility of the smart city, because when you connect all the meters in the city, potentially the meters in the city like the water, the street lighting, the intersections, power distribution, sewage control, all of those things, potentially you could connect up into some sort of a control system that could display some intelligence about how things were done. It's a fairly ambitious project, or ambitious vision of the future that some engineers are very, very keen on, and it's probably quite interesting to think about. Something that's come up reasonably recently is actually called cloud computing, and this is where we've got software as a service. This goes one step further and say that not only do you not own the software, you don't own the hardware as well, and you can rent, buy time on somebody's computing platform, computing environment, and you can run your own software there, or they can provide some software somewhere there as well. Now, these clouds are named because they exist somewhere out there, out in the cloud of the internet connections. Where they are physically located is somewhere in the world, and this brings up potentially problems of transborder data flow and data sovereignty and things like that. However, let's not get distracted from the central point about cloud computing. It is the provision of a computing platform and associated support services by some vendor who looks after them for use by an organization on a commercial fee-paying basis. Now, I'd have to conclude this lecture on web systems by summarizing the whole lot and saying, look, the web, the internet, and the web services and the growth of web services has been a fairly significant technological change in the world. And one of the most successful technological changes that has been introduced in the last century. It really has fundamentally changed the way the world is and how the world behaves. There are a wide range of application complexities that are supported by current web architectures. Probably going to be an increasing diversity of applications as subtleties are brought into play. There are a number of protocols emerging that are likely to supplant some of the established ones, such as CORBA and RMI, for the majority of large-scale distributed applications. We are seeing new trends coming up. This is software as a service and cloud computing, as well as a number of previously unforeseeable services that can now be offered across the internet that simply were not possible before. Every new technology allows new business models and new products, and the internet is no different.